Poltergeist. Scary movie about the Freeling family getting terrorized by evil supernatural forces in their otherwise idyllic home. Released in 1982, Poltergeist tells the story of little Carol Ann, whom gets kidnapped by sinister ghouls, whom kidnap her via her bedroom closet, taking her into another dimension, in which her desperate parents can only hear her voice via a static TV channel.
Directed by Tobe Hooper and produced by Steven Spielberg,
Poltergeist was the highest grossing horror movie of 1982.
And tapped into a newfound fear that our family homes and appliances may be trying to harm us, along with our children's toys, taking the traditional haunted house story away from the creepy old mansions and into modern day suburbia, which poses many themes and questions.
That our modern day suburbia lifestyles may hide many dark secrets of the past. So today, let's celebrate this classic scary horror movie about the American dream and lifestyle gone wrong by completely forgetting about the modern 2015 remake and looking into 10 amazing facts about this amazing movie. So let's stay out the kitchen and turn off the TV as we explore this classic horror movie, Poltergeist.
They're here.
Number 10. Origins of Poltergeist.
Writer and producer Steven Spielberg had been working on Poltergeist for several years before the movie went into production. Originally, the movie was about sinister forces invading a family home and was called Night Skies, in which evil aliens invade the family's house.
And at one stage, it was set to be a sequel to another Spielberg movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
But over the years, the story changed from aliens to ghosts, and alas, Poltergeist. Although famed author Richard Matheson claims that the story of Poltergeist draws heavily on an episode of The Twilight Zone that he wrote, called Little Girl Lost, which aired in 1962, 20 years before Poltergeist. It tells the story of a young girl who gets lost in another dimension that she stumbles into through her bedroom wall, where just like Poltergeist, her desperate parents must cross into the dimension to get their little girl back. So what do you guys think? Coincidence, or did Spielberg intentionally or unintentionally rip off the little girl Lost? Number 9. Director disputes. Yeah, this is something that seems to be common knowledge with this movie, but it's still worth mentioning, as over the years there have been many disputes as to who actually directed the movie, as many people claim that
although Tobe Hooper is credited as director,
Spielberg was the movie's true director. In fact, even members of the cast have spoken up and claimed that Spielberg was more of a director in the movie. And many movie fans claim that Poltergeist completely has Spielberg's look and feel. Spielberg originally wanted to direct the movie, but at the same time he was directing E.T. the Extraterrestrial. So due to some legal clause, he wasn't allowed to direct another movie while directing E.T. So he brought in Texas Chainsaw Massacre director
Tobe Hooper.
So who do I think was the true mastermind behind Poltergeist out of Hooper and Spielberg? Well, to be honest, I think both. I feel like the movie has both their styles. It has Spielberg's modern suburbia feel about it, along with Spielberg-esque fantasy tropes. And in addition to that, it also has Hooper's love for gross-out shock tactics. Heck, the movie even has 2 intros, one that I like to think is a sinister, foreboding Hooper intro, and a more softer, calmer, idyllic Spielberg intro. Number 8. Awkward jump cut. In the first half of the movie, there is a scene where the Freeling family are starting to learn of the strange supernatural occurrences in their family home. While Diane Freeling is showing her husband Steve Freeling the odd phenomena of moving chairs in the kitchen, the movie then has this really sudden, really awkward jump cut, which is strange for a Spielberg-related movie, which are usually of top-notch quality and don't feature such odd sudden edits.
Except that you can breathe, and you're getting pulled along in the...
Hi, Ben.
Oh, Mr. Taylor.
Well, this is because a line of dialogue had to be cut. You see, in the scene in question, when little Carol Ann says she's hungry, Diane Freeling says we'll go to Pizza Hut. Where a shocked and startled Steve Freeling then says, I hate Pizza Hut. Well, Pizza Hut took exception to this and were not impressed. So in order to appease the pizza franchise giants, the dialogue was swiftly cut from the movie.
And you're getting pulled along in the...
Hi, Ben.
Oh, Mr. Taylor.
Once again, leaving a very awkward jump cut. I guess they just couldn't get the actors back to reshoot the scene? But cutting from one scene to another while a character is in mid-conversation is really weird. Number 7. The Shining connection. In the scene where Carol Ann approaches the static TV when the ghost hand comes out, people have noticed that the time displayed on the TV is 2:37, and many have claimed that this is paying homage to room 237 in The Shining, which came out 2 years earlier.
In fact, the original script specifically states that the numbers on the TV set are 237.
So, was Spielberg putting in a subtle nod to his mate Stanley Kubrick's film? But you see, here's the thing. Whether intentional or not, in both scenes in both movies, the number 237 represents a child who is in danger of sinister supernatural forces. Now there's something to think about. And if you think all this sounds silly, keep this in mind. In the end scene where the whole street gets attacked, who should turn up? Well, none other than Jack Torrance himself, where we see a yellow car just like the one that Jack drives in get flipped over. Number 6. Spielberg's Hands make a cameo. One of the most shocking scenes in the movie involves a helpless paranormal investigator called Marty, who decides to help himself to the Freelings' food in their kitchen in the middle of the night. Okay, seriously, what's up with that? Where the ghosts decide to mess with his head, causing some pretty sinister hallucinations. One of them being him looking into the mirror where he proceeds to rip his face off.
By the way, did I mention this movie got a PG rating? Yeah, kids, enjoy those nightmares.
Well, the hands used for this scene belong to none other than Spielberg himself, as pictures have come to light of Spielberg ripping the gooey flesh off the Marty puppet.
By the way, this footage of Marty looking like a zombie just staring awkwardly into the mirror is from an alternative ABC broadcast of the movie. Obviously to water Poltergeist down and to not be so horrific.
Number 5. Drew Barrymore auditioned for the role of Carol Ann. As mentioned, Spielberg made Poltergeist at the same time he made E.T. In fact, the films are kind of similar, with similar themes about miscommunication in the modern family. I guess you could say that Poltergeist is E.T.'s evil twin, and both movies look as though they were filmed in the same neighbourhood. In fact, I like to think both movies take place in the same universe, as mentioned in my Gremlins video, the Spielbergverse. Well, little Drew Barrymore, who played Gertie in E.T., originally auditioned for the role of Carol Ann, but Spielberg thought she would be much more fitting for the part of Gertie. In fact, Heather O'Rourke, who played Carol Ann, didn't even originally audition, but her sister did. And she just so happened to catch Spielberg's eye when he saw her eating in the MGM studio canteen. There are pics of the kids from both E.T. and Poltergeist hanging out. Number 4. The Beast was always meant to be a creepy old man. Nearing Poltergeist's climax, we learn that the main spirit behind Carol Ann's kidnapping is an evil entity, simply called the Beast. And the only time we get a really good look at this beast is when a giant skull head pops out of the wardrobe as the Freeling parents try to get their daughter back. However, Cut to Poltergeist 2, and we learn that the beast is in fact a super creepy old preacher called Henry Kane, who for some reason likes to sing about God being in a holy temple or something like that.
God is in his holy temple.
Yeah, just look at that guy!
Earthly thought, be silent now.
You don't mess with that shit. However, it seems that it was always the plan that Carol Ann's evil kidnapper was that of the spirit of an old man. As going back to the giant skull scene in the closet, in this test picture, you can see that at one stage it wasn't going to be a giant skull head popping out of the closet, but in fact the giant ghost head of an old man. And to be honest, I actually find this more creepier than the weird looking skull head. Number 3. Deleted scenes. One of the most terrifying elements of the movie Poltergeist is little Robbie Freeling's clown doll. Okay, seriously, what cruel and sick parents would buy this evil as hell looking doll for their kid? Later in the movie, the doll comes to life and tries to strangle Robbie, while dragging him under the bed and no doubt telling him they all float. Well, a story that has been circulating through the internet for a few years now explains that there was actually a deleted scene, where at the start of the movie, Robbie has a birthday party where he takes part in a treasure hunt, where he explores the house to find his birthday presents that his parents have hidden for him, where he sees the sinister clown, which comes to life and bites him. Yeah, as if the clown doll wasn't terrifying enough, he also bites too. Thanks a lot, guys! It's never been clear if this birthday party scene was filmed or if it was just in the early days of the script. But one scene that was filmed and then refilmed and drastically changed is the scene where we see Diane Freeling get attacked and dragged up her bedroom wall and ceiling. Originally that scene was filmed with weird tentacles coming out of the wall and attacking her. And although the idea of one ceiling growing tentacles is a scary and ambitious idea, going by the pictures, I just don't think the effect looked right. And if the finished product has anything to go by, sometimes less is more.
Number 2. Spielberg wanted Stephen King to co-write the script. Without a doubt, Poltergeist is one freaky movie. The only way it could have been more freaky deaky is if the master of horror himself, Stephen King, helped to bring Poltergeist together. And, well, that was actually nearly the case. King was a horror sensation at that time, having written his famous horror novels, Carrie, Salem's Lot, and The Shining. And Spielberg wanted King to co-write Poltergeist with him, which would have been a match made in heaven. So what went wrong? Simply put, communication issues. By the time Spielberg put the word out that he wanted King's collaboration, King was on a ship crossing the Atlantic to England, and by the time King got to shore, Spielberg had already paired up with co-writers Michael Grace and Mark Victor. But just imagine, Poltergeist co-written by Stephen King? Heck yeah, I'll be up for that! Speaking of famous faces associated with Poltergeist, let's not forget of course the amazing music score by movie composing legend Jerry Goldsmith. Definitely one of my favourite scores by him. It's so innocent and playful and yet disturbing and generally terrifying at the same time. Goldsmith was actually nominated for an Oscar for Best Movie Score, but lost to John Williams' score for E.T., the other big Spielberg movie of 1982. Interestingly, one of the songs Goldsmith made for the movie didn't actually feature in the final film. It's a song called Bless This House, which is basically the Carol Ann theme, but with lyrics. And I know I use the word creepy a lot, but hearing the song with lyrics is creepy. Number 1. Extras from Beyond the Grave. In the thrilling climax of Poltergeist, we see Diane Freeling fall into the muddy swimming pool, where a heap of rotten skeletons start rising out of the ground. It is honestly a truly unnerving and terrifying moment in the movie. However, in later years there have been claims that the skeletons we see were real human remains. And, well, to be honest, they were. They were skeletons that were shipped in from facilities in India, and the same practice would also be used on other movies too, such as scenes involving skeletons in The Goonies. And for some reason, the skeletal remains that were used in these movies usually seem to have come from India.
Where do you get all these skeletons from?
Oh, they come from India.
India?
International treaty. All skeletons come from India.
There are also claims that some of the real-life tragedies that have happened to the cast after the release of Poltergeist are the result of the use of the skeletons being used, and thus the Poltergeist film series is hexed. But is it though? Really? A recent Shudder documentary series called Cursed Films completely refutes this, as it explores this urban legend, where special effects artist Craig Reardon, who worked on Poltergeist, explained that films using skeletons isn't a rare practice. They had been used for the original Frankenstein and House on Haunted Hill. And he also seems to be generally upset that people have tried to link some of the real-life tragedies that have occurred to the cast to skeletons being used in a movie. You can see watching the show that kind of hits a raw nerve with him. The documentary also explains that the reason why this spooky urban legend has taken off so much is because Poltergeist itself is a movie about the dead coming back to wreak revenge on the living for their remains being disrespected by the living. So what the skeleton curse urban legend does is transcends the movie into the real world, where suddenly the plot of the movie is actually happening in real life, where the plot of Poltergeist appears to become more meta, which leads to great fascination and intrigue from fans, and general horror enthusiasts. Do I think the curse is real? No, I don't. But regardless, all these stories just add to the creepiness of an already creepy movie. A classic ghost story which for its time pushed boundaries in terms of visual effects and spectacle. Ghost movies were no longer going to be made on the cheap, with bats flying around the place being held up by string. But now they were going to have Star Wars quality special effects. Poltergeist is also a movie that forces us to relive our childhood fears, with those fears still feeling fresh. But above all, it's a movie that teaches us that when facing supernatural evil, family love and unity is our true strength and what will help us to survive. There really is no other movie quite like Poltergeist, both on the screen and behind it.
Well guys, that was my list of amazing facts about Poltergeist. Although there does seem to be controversy and tragedy surrounding this movie, it is still a classic. And one that even to this day still scares the you-know-what out of me. So let's not let the negativity ruin a classic film. Anyway, I'm Minty, and if you're a housing developer and you relocate a cemetery, don't just move the headstones. Otherwise you're gonna get shit like this happening. See ya!